Chapter 5. Funeral. Robert Brown, 43. 1981. New York City, New York. John Hamman's funeral was even smaller than his wife's. It was held in New York. The church was old, predating the skyscrapers around it, but the body would be sent to be interred in Africa on his estate, there with his wife, who had preceded him by almost 20 years. This was the conclusion for one of the richest, yet least known men in the world. Robert Brown sat quietly in the pew, along with other junior members of the firm. Looking over across the aisle, he could see the handful of family members: Hamman's daughter, her husband, and a young grandchild, sitting there quietly crying. He had worked on the Hamman account for almost 2 decades, and yet he never really knew the man. Robert had to drag his attention back to the service. The priest at the pulpit was still speaking.
As we celebrate the life of one of the greatest industrialists of our age.
Robert found himself wondering about the truth of the man. Hamman was an enigma. Few men gathered that much wealth and power without coming into the spotlight of the world stage. It was almost like he set out from the beginning to make sure he stayed anonymous and structured all his business dealings to conceal his success. Robert had worked alongside the other members of the firm, creating the shell corporations that his business operated under. At times, he wondered what he was concealing, but he had never been able to find evidence of any crime. He had been a client for more than 40 years. Hamman contacted the firm in 1938, shortly before World War II, to assist in the immigration of Jews from the European continent. He assisted in the smuggling of an unknown number of families out of Europe before, and some said after, Hitler controlled all of Western Europe. He gambled wildly with his money in those years, and all his bets paid off, almost as if he knew what would happen.
A leader and a pioneer in the nuclear industry, leading the way to energy independence.
As the man at the pulpit droned on about his accomplishments, Robert couldn't help but think about some of the wilder rumors surrounding John Hamman. If these people only knew the truth about the man. The stories read like some kind of spy thriller. It was said that he was involved in the U.S. acquiring the uranium ore from the Congo before the Nazis could capture it. He was an investor in Union Minière du Haut-Katanga that controlled the Shinkolobwe mine. He persuaded Edgar Senghir to stockpile the highest quality ore in a warehouse on Staten Island and to hold another 3,000 tons on site in the Congo, rather than to send it to Belgium. The Germans captured all the ore that was previously sent to Olen for processing and used it in their own nuclear program. But thanks to Hamman's efforts, the US was able to transport the ore remaining in the Congo to America for the Manhattan Project. Would we have even been able to build the bomb without it? It probably would have happened eventually, but it could never have been done in time to be used in the war without Hamman's ore. He had worked with the Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, and William Wild Bill Donovan to protect the shipments and prevent smuggling of ore to Germany. Some said he worked with Donovan to form the organization that was the precursor to the CIA. Rumors circulated that association had never ended. Robert thought back to the old man he had met only a handful of times. He had always been nervous in his presence. Older members of the firm told stories of him working with the OSS, hunting down Nazi diamond smugglers in the wilds of the Congo. The Germans were transporting industrial diamonds out of Africa for their war effort. It was a key strategic resource for the cutting and grinding of the new harder alloys. Some people said it played as large a part in defeating the Reich as bombing the ball-bearing factories. Even as old as he was, Robert could still see the old man in running gunfights through the jungle. He had that larger-than-life aura about him that made you believe even the wildest rumors. Once or twice, Robert had seen the old man eyeing him speculatively. It had made him want to scurry away. Who was John Hamman? Robert thought back over what he actually knew to be true. The firm had handled his business dealings for years. He acquired the mineral rights to large tracts of land that were critical for uranium mining and oil production after the war. He was part of the founding of Aramco and the Arabian oil fields. He located and was an early investor in kimberlite pipes in Africa and Canada, and owned mineral rights on land where they were beginning to mine the rare earth metals in Africa, now being used in the growing semiconductor market. And he was an investor in numerous companies, all of which had paid off spectacularly, including names like IBM and Apple. Throughout all of this success, he went to great lengths to avoid drawing notice to himself. The firm worked for him, setting up and managing the shell companies that held his interest. Now, the old man was dead, and the firm was to administer his estate.